welcome back to another edition of the Well Below Average podcast. After a week off last week, we are back. It is Sunday. It is uncomfortably hot, and good to be back with you guys. Adam, Roy, good to see you. I don't know if we ever talked about what we were all doing last week, but we were all busy last Sunday. So good to be back together on the show. How's everybody doing?
Well, I'm doing well. Been a busy week. We did skip last week, so busy 2 weeks. My 18-year-old graduated from high school, and I had a bunch of family in town. And then my 18-year-old niece, who graduates tomorrow, had her final dance recital. She's going to college for dance. So, Sunday we went to a 3-hour-long dance recital at Will Rogers Coliseum. Oh, it was an experience, to say the least. But I'm doing well.
How much of that was her dancing versus being a part of the 3-hour recital?
She was about 30%.
Okay.
Could be
decent.
Worse. What's worse than that is going to a big graduation, like in these big high schools or a college, and you sit there forever just to hear one person's name called. That's borderline torture, honestly.
It is. My wife, when she graduated from college at UTA, we had a bunch of people were in their big basketball arena. Is where they held their graduation, and we completely missed her name because it was so loud in there. There was so much going on, and it was so fast. And I looked at the program, and we were 5 names past hers. I'm like, oh no, we didn't cheer.
Man, you missed it.
I did.
Roy, what did last Sunday look like for you?
It was driving back from Houston for a wedding. My wife's cousin, the first of her cousins, finally got married. And that was exciting because it finally started to take a little bit of the pressure off of me being the guy that married into the family. However, I am still the only white addition to the Vietnamese family that my wife is a part of, because the cousin married a gentleman who is also 100% Vietnamese. So I'm still behind the 8 ball on that front. But I did get to wear a very cool Vietnamese outfit. They call it an ao dai. It's kind of like a male dress. I don't say that in a condescending way. I just don't know how else to describe it. But you know what I mean, like a male flowing garb. And it was really cool. And I had a great time. Got to dance, free drinks, open bar, which is always a win. And
Right.
What I was spending my time doing on Sunday was driving back, hitting up the Buc-ee's there on the way in Madisonville, and then on the way back to DFW.
Those big weddings where there's an open bar, where the food, when you're just a guest, is phenomenal. You can blend in all night, just take advantage of all the free stuff they're giving you. Just hang out at the table. Maybe you go out on the dance floor, maybe you don't. When you're just a guest and there's no pressure to in the party at all, man, I am not, this might not surprise you. I don't love weddings. I love my weddings, but that's pretty great, is to just hang out, get free drinks, get the food, and just spend the night, even if you're just people watching. There's great people watching at wedding.
It was a huge win. It was a huge win for us because, we got to enjoy a lot of that. But we had the 2 kids with us, right? 5 and a 3-year-old.
Okay.
And they were a part of the wedding itself. Flower girl, ring bearer. So we did have some responsibilities in that regard, and we turned it in early. The wedding kind of cocktail hour at 5. Reception began at 6, and then dancing and everything started at 7. They went till midnight. Me and Michelle went back to the hotel room at 9:30. It's no.
Yeah, that happens. It gets late earlier as you get older.
Yeah, we took my daughter. How old was she at this point? She must have been 5 months, maybe 5 months. We took her to a wedding at the Adolphus in Dallas. Well, first it was at SMU on their campus, at the chapel, and in the middle of the ceremony, we were in the very back, of course, but she peed all over my wife. My wife was holding her. She peed everywhere. So she had to go out, change her, all this stuff. Then we took her to the reception, which was at the Adolphus, which is a super nice hotel in one of their like giant ballrooms. And she, at that point, was going to bed at 5:30, 6 o'clock. It's like 8 o'clock. She's miserable, but she eventually fell asleep. So we got to hang out and have some dinner. There's like a big band playing and she's just out cold. So she did pretty well. Now we'll see how she does now that she's getting more mobile, but we don't really have many friends or family that are A, not married already, or B, like on the horizon of getting married anytime soon. So I think we're kind of out of weddings for a while, which I'm not going to complain about. I've been to enough. I've experienced enough weddings at this point.
So weddings, we actually have a wedding story, but how big was y'all's weddings? Like, because I've seen like your wedding pictures online, Nick.
Yeah.
But
how many people were there? I honestly don't remember. Maybe like 120 people, maybe a little more than that. We had a brunch wedding, so it was like 11 a.m. on a Saturday. It was great. We were done by 2, and so we had to get up early, but we didn't have to, be up all day and then up late at night. But waffles, pancakes, mimosas, breakfast food, all that stuff, coffee. So we loved it. It was great. But it was probably about, 120 people, something like that.
Can't forget the coffee. Did you have a big
Right.
wedding, Roy?
Maybe like 150. And when you say wedding, I assume you mean reception, because we kind of split it up, actually. The wedding was in the morning at like 10 a.m., and then the reception was at like 6. And
What did you do all day?
Well, for me and my wife, it actually was great. Number one, it was World Cup season. And so us getting married on the 5th of July, when we did, we actually, we got married and then we stopped over at a pub and I call it a pub because it's like a specifically English pub. The Dubliner or the Londoner there in Colleyville.
Yeah.
And they had a couple of games on, so we just sat there, had a beer. It was like maybe one other table in there. So here I was with me and my wife and our wedding party, and we just kind of drank the afternoon. And then everybody else got to go chill. We consummated our marriage. You know what I'm saying? The perfect time to do it, right? Because there's no stress.
In the
You
pub?
got time to like relax.
Right. Fair
Right?
question.
And it was
or
Was it at the
oh,
pub?
not at the
consummation?
Londoner, no, went home,
bathroom, stockroom?
consummated, changed, right? Because she had to do an outfit change anyway for the reception. For me, I just got back into the same clothes, no big deal. But it like timing wise, it ended up being great, stress free for me. For wedding party people, that probably was like a pain in the ass. Have to do something in the morning and then do something at night. But for us, like it worked out perfectly.
I think I've talked about this. I don't know. Me and my wife went on our lunch break between classes at UTA. Didn't tell anybody. Went to a little pizza shop that was right off campus. I guess that would have been the reception. And then, that was it.
Didn't tell anybody? What do you mean? So you didn't have a wedding? You just got married at the pizza place?
Went to the courthouse and then right outside of UTA campus. And then down the street was a little pizza shop, and we had lunch there. And then
the courthouse is like a couple blocks from at least where it is now, like a couple blocks from the campus. I used to live right over there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, because I had class that morning, and she had a class. We both had classes that afternoon. We're just like, we had our marriage certificate, like, let's go. We got a couple of hours.
Got a special lady right there that's willing to do that.
I know.
Oh yeah. We are very simpatico with that. It's as few people as possible.
I was constantly in between the rock and the hard place. The rock being like, we know we want to be together long term, so we need to get married. And the hard place being, in the Vietnamese culture, the male pays for the wedding.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And so you can imagine how my father took that news. And of course, I was involved in that conversation as well. So again, like, do you want me to wait and take the time to be able to do the wedding the way you like it? Or, do you want that ring that badly? It ended up being a mix of both. We got married after about 7.5 years being together.
Wow. Hey. Well, weddings are great. We do have a story on wedding, but let's talk about our sponsors real quick, and we'll get into our show. I'll go first with, I forgot to hang the t-shirts up again. I see them right there, literally right there. It's a Local Menace is a Dallas-based streetwear brand, artist-owned. Awesome merchandise, shirts, hoodies, hats. They're getting real big. Follow them on Instagram at Local Menace. I have a thing here. Hold on. Maybe I don't. Yeah, follow them at Local Menace. And you can use code BeardCrew at localmenace.com for 25% off. It's right there on the screen. Check them out. Get your summer wear, your wardrobe refreshed, and look awesome with a local company out of Dallas.
They were actually at the big music festival I was at last week. They had a booth there. I only saw it from a distance, so I didn't stop by, but they were there. And it was like a big tent, big booth. I'm sure they got a lot of exposure there. So shout out to Local Menace. Up next is Rodeo Coffee Company right here in Fort Worth, Texas. They are open Thursday through Sunday at Assembly Park Drive and Makers Way. So that's a corner out in the Walsh neighborhood, which is right like on that Aledo Fort Worth line. I was going to pull up their menu, their new June menu on my phone here, but Instagram's not wanting to cooperate, so it's not going to let me. But they're open, like I said, Thursday through Sunday, 7 to 11:30. They've got drip coffee, lattes, iced coffee. I think they've got a new soda like this month that they make themselves. Also have all sorts of fresh beans for you to buy as well. Check them out, and I'll let them know. Send you over there.
Awesome. And check out Ish Beard Works, my company. We if you're looking for something for Father's Day, we have Rub-a-Dub Dad basket buckets. For any dad that likes to leave doesn't want to leave a bit of a stench in the bathroom, whether it's after shower or going. So we have some cool Father's Day baskets for the non-bearded dads and bearded alike. But let's get into this. Do you like that name, Roy? Rub-a-Dub Dad?
I do. I think that's very creative.
Thank you. I get one or two every now and again. So our first story, speaking of weddings, y'all been to Vegas, right? Kind of the wedding capital of the world. My mom, actually, her third marriage was in Vegas.
I have never been to Vegas, sadly. I need to go, but I've never been.
Was that the one that stuck for her? The third one?
Stuck she's still technically married to that guy. They've been estranged for 8 years now.
Okay.
Longer than that, 10.
Legally stuck, at least.
Yes.
It's sticky when you get married in Vegas.
It's sticky in Vegas, yes. It's gross. But you're familiar, Nick, with the whole wedding chapel, the movies and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Well, the Elvis weddings, I'm sure we've seen several times in movies, and that is actually the estate or the company that owns the image of Elvis and his whatever, all the likenesses and licensing, is shutting down the Elvis Presley Heartbreak Hotel wedding chapels in Vegas.
I saw this week. I didn't really see like a lot of the details of why or what.
I guess no one gives a shit anymore about Elvis.
Right. Although there's that new Elvis movie coming out that is slightly intriguing to me.
Yeah.
But the only thing I think about, having never been to Vegas and like having no thoughts on Elvis. There's all sorts of themes that I'm sure are more popular now than having an Elvis wedding. Like in our day and age, like probably like a horror themed wedding or all sorts of, anything you could think of. I'm sure there's a theme that you could find and go to a chapel and take care of it. Maybe the demand just wasn't there anymore.
Well, the big one, Graceland Wedding Chapel perform 6,400 Elvis-themed weddings per year, and as said, they have not been served with any legal warning or letters yet.
Yo, all right. Well, I take it back. I mean, 6,400, man. You do the math, right? If you're operating 7 days a week, 365 days a year, they're doing 20 a day, nearly. If they're doing that, right? I mean, less than that, maybe 15 to 18 a day, but that's daily. That's no holidays, no Christmas, no vacation time at all. If that's the case, then the demand is still there, right? So I take it back fully. I just kind of figured people getting married on a whim in today's day and age probably don't give a shit about Elvis because they have no idea who he is. Most, I'm thinking.
Well, you got to account for some of these people. This is their third, fourth marriage.
Now, granted, right?
Yeah.
Totally get that too, right? Like they come in all shapes and sizes. So I'm not, that's forgive me for making the assumption, but at the same time, I kind of go like you, Nick. How many other themes would be more popular? I mean, is there a reality show theme that would get more of a draw? Is there, a Kardashian wedding or something stupid like that where you had a bunch of Kim Kardashian lookalikes? Would that be as popular, or is this just something that they used because that company owned the likeness, and maybe that likeness ownership is expiring because those things do not necessarily always go into perpetuity?
It doesn't say in the article, but I kind of have a feeling that it may have to do with the Elvis movie. Maybe that's, they're anticipating a new demand and a new audience into the whole Elvis world, and they're trying to make sure that people don't make money without them getting their cut.
Man, I was gonna say, if they're anticipating it, I'd almost hold out for it. If you knew an Elvis movie was coming out, you'd be like, our business is about to be booming. Everybody's going to remember us. They're going to be searching us nonstop. I'm honestly floored by the 6,400 number in a year's time. Like, holy crap, that's incredible.
And it says, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, my question is off topic of Elvis. So, go. You were gonna.
And it says 6,400 per year. So, I mean, it doesn't say how many years they've been doing it. So it could be, you could be talking hundreds of thousands.
Okay, well then, I don't like that verbiage though. I'd like to hear that because in the peak, right, it could have been 10,000 a day. And if it's now down, or 10,000 a year. And if it's now down to 350 a year, right, one a day, then maybe the operating cost doesn't meet the demand, right? You got to have someone staffing that thing all day. You got to pay for all that extra fluff and all the roses and all that stuff. I mean, I guess my first thought was just the demand can't be there. The demand just can't be there. And I'd still like to see the books. Now I'm back. Now I'm flipping back to it. I don't.
Now you're flipping back.
Yeah, I say I stand by it. People don't give a shit about Elvis anymore.
Well, take us off topic, Nick. What was your question?
I was just going to ask. So I've never been to Vegas. Roy, you've been to Vegas, I'm assuming. Adam,
Many
have
times.
you been?
2 or 3 times. Yeah, when I lived in San Diego, I went every now and again. Yeah.
So now I'm a married man. I'm a father. I have more of a clamped budget, although I guess and so the reason I never went when I was in my early 20s, I couldn't afford it. Like I couldn't afford to get there. Now that I would have seemingly the means, but there is, I do have more restrictions. Being a dad and a husband and having a career and all those things. Is it all it's cracked up to be? Like, is it a thing that I have to go do? Like, or if I never went, are you like, yeah, well, you'll be fine?
I would. I mean, there's family stuff. There's all kinds of stuff to do. Like, it's not a terrible idea for a family vacation.
Yeah, I mean, to your question, like
my wife went as a kid.
Yeah, will you always regret it in your life if you don't go? I mean, probably just because you never got to say you went to Vegas, right? But in terms of the experience, like I've had good ones and bad ones, and they've come in both forms. Like and when I say that, both forms, one being the family form, which is when you go to Vegas, your money is spent on food and shows and shopping, right? You hardly spend any time on the casino floor, which is what a lot of people think of, gambling, losing money, whatever. Well, go see Cirque du Soleil. Go see a comedian that you like. Go see Celine Dion or one of these, performers that you're into. And I promise you, you'll feel like your money was well spent, right? And it'll cost you, but you'll feel like your money was well spent between that and the food. On the flip side, if you're gambling, right, then I think that's going to be a little bit more up in the air depending on how well you do, right? If you make a lot of money, you might feel great about it. If you're a sports gambler like me, you watch a couple of games, maybe you spend $150, but it lasts you for 7 hours because the games are 2 and 3 hours long, right? So maybe you're betting that way, spending time at the pools, amazing, right? Especially if you go in the summertime, the pools are really great. The scene's really great. But you have to kind of be into a little bit of that high society stuff because they'll upcharge you for it. And even that, I say, hell, you still go to downtown Fremont Street, where kind of old Vegas area is. And I actually say I love going down to Fremont Street because it's way more laid back and it's not that type of hoity-toity. I said you gotta be high society, not on Fremont Street, right? Grab a beer, walk on the street with it. You'll see some funky things on the street depending on what time of the night you're out there. Some
you sit down, take your shoes off on the street. Yeah.
Bingo. But you'll also see some really fun stuff, right? Zip lines going over your head and, classic casinos, the Golden Nugget, the D, things like that. I do think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to you. 4 days, 3 nights, perfect amount of time.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what I was going to say. My last time in Vegas was my last time my dad took us, and we just spent 3 days in the sports book, which was probably the best time I ever had.
Yeah, that's what me and my buddies always talked about, going on an NFL weekend and just, call our college football on Saturday, NFL on Sunday, and just hanging out and throwing money around at the sports book, which I think would be a blast. So
we went for my bachelor party. We went for March Madness, the first weekend of the tournament. We went out on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, left like Sunday evening. So again, that was pretty much all sports betting all day because you you have to wake up at 8 because the games start there in Vegas at 9:40. And if you're not in line to bet by 9 o'clock, you may not get a bet off because it's that crazy. And if you don't have a spot picked out at like an hour before, you're probably not going to get one because everybody's kind of there for that. And then I've also been for opening NFL weekend, and that was awesome for another guy's bachelor party. We all kind of planned that between the two of it. So like the sports windows, if you're down there for the big ones, man, they'll do you right. They'll do you right.
Yeah, it was a fun time. So our next story I want to talk about, if there wasn't more enticement than this, so America's falling apart. We have all kinds of issues in our system. But I ran across a story I thought was very interesting, and it's enticing me to move out of the country a little more. In Spain, Madrid, Spain, they are passing a law to make it illegal for companies to have an automated call-in system. You have to have humans available. All public utilities companies and all companies over where's the number? I saw it, that make over $53 million in profit a year have to have live customer service. They can no longer use the talk to the I forget what it's called, but yeah, they have to have live customer service there. So that is one of the most frustrating things about life, I believe, is talking to the computer. Instantly angers me.
And they can't understand you. The option that you're looking for is not there. You end up just going in circles, hang up the phone because you can't get a hold of anybody.
Yeah, how quickly I do it almost instantly. Like I press 0 95% of the time from the jump in hopes that it gets me right to an operator. Like skip all this stuff. I don't know my password. I don't know my account number. I don't even know my own birthday. I don't know my social security number. I need to talk to an operator right now. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to service me, and I need to be serviced. That is my demand.
We were
normally I'd be okay with a robot servicing me, but that's another issue.
Talk about Vegas. Yeah. We were supposed to go on a trip this past weekend to see my wife's family up in New York, and we were supposed to leave Thursday night. And around 3:30, our flight was at 6:30. Around 3:30 Thursday afternoon, we get an alert from the app that our flight was canceled, just out of nowhere, completely canceled, no reason, nothing. And I was tied up with stuff at work, so I couldn't really do anything about it. But my wife was calling, and I don't want to throw any major airlines under the bus here, but just every time I've had to call them for any customer service thing, whether it's like a lost bag or our flight got canceled, we need to rebook. There's a million options, and you just say representative over and over and over again, because if you say I need to talk to a representative, they're like, oh, but what about this? We could help you with this. Have you tried saying but have you tried the online feature? Yeah, I've been online and how to use a website. I need to talk to somebody and figure this out. They're like, but our website has a chat feature. Have you tried that? No, I don't want to chat with anybody. But I feel like airlines, specifically this one, it's always, they try to get, everything they can to not have somebody talk to you. And it's infuriating.
Yeah, I feel like this is the kind of law we should be able to get bipartisan support on. I think we need to look at this and see if we can't get this. Don't
bipartisan support? How much more is it going to cost a company to have to employ individuals in the United States with health care, benefits, 401ks, etc., versus being able to outsource that outside the country or going through a touch tone system? I think there's going to be plenty of lobby money that is going to be against that, Adam. And I don't think that is an easily passed bipartisan issue in these United States.
Can I not dream, man? Can I not dream?
Yeah, good luck with that, brother. Yeah.
But anyway, see how I circle this back to politics?
Would you move out of the country, though? That's an interesting question in and of itself. Is there anything that gets you to move out of the country? I got a buddy living in Portugal right now. Money. Maybe you know him, Nick Dalton Miller, who's working.
No way.
Is living in Portugal. Yes, working for Pro Football Network 365, and because of the fact that he's living there and the cost of living, he can do that job remotely and get paid what he's getting paid and survive. He could do that and enjoy it and survive.
Wow. You mean he doesn't? I'm not gonna. I don't want to disparage.
No, I don't think he's making anything more than what I was making on the morning show, which was no more than $35,000. I don't mind telling people my stuff. Now I'm putting that out there for him. I don't know if that's the case or not. Maybe he's making a lot more than that. But
what I was going to say is, he doesn't have to work for $10 an hour, working any shift that is given to you for however long, in hopes that it turns into $35,000 a year.
But also never getting 40 hours or enough hours to actually make it mean something.
Right. Yeah. Right.
The Summer of Roy Full-Time song was a farce.
It wasn't a farce because in the song, I celebrate the fact that I got benefits. That was massive because I was married and
unheard of.
Yeah, getting the benefits through my wife as a teacher. When you have an additional person on those benefits, it's horrendous. They upcharge you insanely. So me getting benefits not only, got me that cool $33K, but it also got me benefits that we could take off of hers and gave her a little bit of a pay raise. So I probably earned more than that as a result of that. But yeah, and then that became my salary for a decade.
That is the first time I heard that. I think I heard it from KT. He shared like some similar number somewhere around that ballpark with me. And I had just left the radio business, and I was floored, like, because I mean I knew there were like I wasn't making any money, but I was like there's the allure of like, oh, full time, like if you get full time, like at least you'll make something. Apparently that was not the case, or that is not the case.
I mean, if you want a massive sidebar here, I know you guys are familiar with the ticket here in DFW, and they have recently had 2 producers leave in the last 2.5 months. Now, Danny Bayless, who did the afternoon show, I really didn't know him personally. I'd met him a couple times. Cool dude. Always loved him on the air. But what he kind of cited was that he didn't really make a whole lot of money. And Mike Soroy, who I do consider to be a friend, although, had seen him much less over the last couple of years, I still have always considered him to be a really talented guy. Helped me, I produced their show for a small period of time when I was working at the ticket. Always an awesome dude, and I always thought he was really funny. He kind of put it out there that, like, there are people in that building making 37, 38, less than 40 a year who have been there for over a decade. And I think most people, like you said, would be floored by that, knowing in a top 5 market in the United States, in radio, in sports radio.
Like the biggest station in the country when it comes to sports radio.
Yes. Yeah. That people could actually be making that money. And that is, unfortunately, that's kind of the reality. Now, I'm not saying that's like totally unusual to the business in general, right? That's probably going on all over the place. But that is, it's kind of insane, man. It's kind of insane, like how long they kind of make people wait and hold on the hope, right? And like you said, Nick, you're waiting on the hope of the full-time. Well, when you get to full-time, like I was, you're kind of always waiting on the hope of, okay, well, when's like the actual pay going to come where they treat me as if I'm a part of the show. And unfortunately, that never really comes until you're on the name of the show.
Yeah, you mentioned, Adam, what would get us to move to a different country? Maybe, Roy, you asked that question. For me, I felt like, talk about benefits, health insurance is something that has tempted me a lot. Like, to peel back the curtain, I get benefits through my job. They're not great, so we don't use them. But since I have a disability and my wife has Crohn's disease, we can't, like, no one will take us for private insurance. So, like, we could get, other than that, like, we're healthy, we could get a really good private plan that was cheap and good coverage, but no one will accept it because I have a disability and she has Crohn's disease. Well, so we have to use, like, Obamacare, which gets us great coverage, but it is stupid expensive. But if we make more money, the cost of that insurance goes up. And so, like, my wife's like, Canada, my family lives in Buffalo. Why don't we just, like, live in Canada? Like, we have thrown around those ideas before. Now, of course, we've lived, my family's here, all that stuff. But, like, that's the kind of stuff that gets me thinking, like, obviously people live there. Like, as much as one side would try to tell you that it's terrible, it's awful, they're going to take all your money through taxes. Doesn't seem too bad to me when I look at it from a distance.
Yeah, my wife is a native Spanish speaker. She's a first generation from Mexico. And we've brought it up and broached it a few times moving south. Yeah. Kind of not near the border, but down deeper into Mexico in the southern part of it. It's all.
Well, think about it.
It depends, like you said.
Think about it. What would it really take, man?
Well, yeah, like you said, if you get a remote job, making $30,000 a year, you don't have to be in the States. Get a good internet connection. Money goes a lot further in some of these countries than it does here.
Think about that, man. Do a podcast in another country and make next to D, but because you're in another country, you can do that podcast for the rest of your life.
Yep. Speaking of things that make me want to move out of the country, we didn't talk about this last week. It's kind of on everybody's mind. I know we're going to steer hard into a uncomfortable topic here, but the And Roy, I'm sure you got all guns ready to fire on this one, but
I don't have any guns, Adam. I don't own guns.
Good call. Bad choice of words on my.
I do own guns, so I shouldn't say that. I have a small handgun.
And I have a couple too, but Uvalde happened 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
Shooting 21 dead, 19 children, and just the reports that have come out and just the things you've seen online. I got in an argument with a guy I went to a seminary with. Heated debate on Facebook just about how the guns aren't the problem. It's not the issue of guns. We need more good guys with guns. We need more teachers with guns. We need more guns, right? World's on fire. Pour some gasoline on it. It'll put itself out, right? But yeah, so that's kind of been the big topic. Something I'm glad we didn't have a show last week, because I probably would have much more upset and let that drive the conversation. But yeah, your thoughts on everything. We'll let Nick go first, because I think Roy might take over a little.
Obviously, it's devastating. First and foremost, like children. I was telling my wife, like, now that my daughter's like, baby, but like it hits so different. Like knowing that these parents, like the second to last day of school, like it's a fun day, like, and this happened. It was like it really like tore me up to think about that. And then like all this week, it's gotten worse and worse, like with how the law enforcement responded, or lack of response, I guess we could say, and not cooperating now with like certain investigations and all those things. It's just gotten worse. And I don't want to rehash the entire conversation we had 3 weeks ago, but that's a part of it. Like, it's been 2 weeks, and and Uvalde's not the only one. It's just the worst one that's happened since then. But there needs to be, and this has been the case for decades now, whatever is happening is not working. And stronger doors, Ted Cruz, are not things that need to change. Military-style law enforcement, like what at an elementary school, like, what are we doing? And I would just, I've asked this question to people who are very against any sort of reform. I simply ask them, like, why don't we at least, like, if they'll say, well, that won't work, like, because the bad guys will still get guns, for example, like people still get drugs, they're illegal, that kind of thing. Well, you can't go to CVS and get your run-of-the-mill, cocaine, heroin, that kind of thing. You can't just walk in and get these illegal drugs. And so I've asked them, like, why don't, like, we don't know, like, if there's stricter gun laws, if you limit, and I'm naive to all the terminology, so forgive me, like limit magazine capacity, AR style weapons, limit those, like, can I just walk into a place and get it? No. Or universal background checks, that kind of thing. Like, other places do this, and it seems to be working, or at least having an effect on the number of just mass casualty that happens. So, to anyone who is vehemently against that, I can't listen to it anymore. Like, there was a time when I would have told you, like, well, I need to hear both sides. Like, that there's no sense in that. And that's been the case for a while, but each one of these, for me, it grows more and more like something has to change, and if it ever changed the state of Texas, I feel like that would be a big stepping stone, because we're in the hotbed for Second Amendment type thing. So that's really where I'm at. And obviously, the biggest thing is it's heartbreaking for these parents, these families. I think they're gonna tear down that elementary school. Like, the kids who survived, heartbreaking for them also. And so definitely, thoughts and real thoughts and prayers to them, but also want action and change and that kind of thing for all the laws and all those things. So that was a lot of different directions, but that was sort of my initial thought, and then kind of how I've been feeling all this week.
Man, Nick, it's extremely well said on a lot of different fronts. Because I know, Adam, like I appreciate you setting me up in that way, but I almost feel guilty in that, like, here Roy goes again, here he goes ranting again about all this stuff. And I do feel the need for that because, as you mentioned, this took place 2 weeks ago. You know how many mass shootings, according to the Gun Violence Archives that tracks this stuff, and considering a mass shooting to be at least 2 people injured by a gun, and if not fatally damaged, how many mass shootings have taken place since Uvalde in the United States?
Memorial Day weekend is a lot.
Is it like 50?
It's 25.
Okay. Half.
25 have taken place in like the 2 weeks since that happened. And as Nick said, like, I want to go really quickly, and just not really quickly, I guess I'll spend all my time on it, is the bad faith arguments that take place. I want you guys to like Google this term because I only came across of it here recently, but it's one that I think is incredibly powerful in today's society in explaining how, just like with climate change or the tobacco industry in the early days of it, gun violence and the rhetoric around it is used to manipulate people. The terminology is called Agnetology, and it refers to the study of culturally induced ignorance or doubt, particularly using the publication of inaccurate or misleading scientific data to drive the thought process behind it, right? And a lot of this stuff is like can be kind of broken down very simply. Number one, by the shift to individual responsibility, right? They try to tell you that it's not the tobacco that's killing you, it's the person lighting the cigarette. It's not the gun that's killing you, it's the person pulling the trigger, right? And then they go out of their way to try to tear down the associations between X and Y. For example, more guns in a household inevitably lead to more deaths, whether that's homicidal or suicidal. It's true that you're 5 times more likely to have a death in the household from a gun-related incident if there's already a gun in there, right? But they'll disassociate that in a way that, makes it seem as if this is only happening in environments where mental health is at play, right? Or where a societal issue is at play. A father's not available in the home, for example, might be the trope that they go to. And all of these are tropes, right? They're all just look here, look here, look here, look here, look here. Try to look anywhere else you can while we run out the clock and you forget about how you felt when all this shit went down. But the problem is, and what they're running into is, it's happening so often that we're constantly being reminded how shitty it is. And if you're a parent in the United States, your child now has a greater chance of dying from gun violence than the police officer in your community being paid to protect him. That is astonishing, atrocious in a culture that we think is like, improving society somewhat. So, like, don't listen to this. Oh, they're going to take your guns away. It's all bullshit. No one ever wants to take your stupid guns away. They've never tried. They want to make it harder, right? With a 72-day waiting period or a background check. Maybe an 18-year-old who has a whim that they want to go kill people decides not to do that when they walk up to the window and they say, yeah, you also need to fill out this stack of forms and you need to go take a gun training safety course, and then you need to wait 72 hours. That 18-year-old might cool down between that time and decide this isn't worth it. And if that's
like
one that doesn't do that, like, and even then, 18, why is an 18-year-old being able to buy it? He can't go buy alcohol. So all these simple things that they want to pass, and that's the other thing of it. These simple things that have nothing to do with taking people's guns are all the same shit that Republicans vote against. And that's why, Nick, you're right. Like, don't suffer this bullshit anymore. Don't suffer these fools anymore. And don't let them make a bad faith argument that they don't actually believe. People do this to me on Twitter all the time. And it's almost gotten easy to be able to shoot the bullshit out of the sky with these motherfuckers. And I'm sorry for swearing so much, but that's how I feel about it, because I get so angry that they think they're being smart interjecting their shit into it. What about the door? Why couldn't we get a reinforced door? Hey, there's 300,000 unemployed veterans out there, and there's 300,000 pit bulls that are being put to death. Why don't we combine them, pay them, and have them protect the kids everywhere? That's a solution where everybody wins. Oh yeah, dipshit? Oh yeah? Okay, you want to pay the veterans. Okay, yeah, because you love veterans so much, you always pay them. Okay, you going to raise teacher salary? You're going to pay more taxes to pay for those items that you're discussing, right? Are you going to pay for the insurance that comes with having to have an armed individual on every campus in the United States? Are you going to pay those bills? Oh, no, you're not. No, you're going to bitch about the fact that we raised your tax 1%. So pipe down, dickhole, and let's come up with some actual solutions to address a problem than all the other crap that you're trying to throw against the wall to make it stick. Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. And
that's what I got.
And that wasn't an indictment on you earlier. I just wanted to make sure you had a wide berth to get your thoughts out.
I appreciate it. I'd die if I didn't get this stuff out there.
And I don't want to prolong this, but I saw something, because the idea and the gentleman I argued with was armed teachers, and I'm like, well, that's moronic. Was it you that put out 65-year-old English teacher? Arming the little old lady that taught English for 40 years.
I mean, I didn't put that out. Oh yeah, there was somebody, a woman speaking about that. You're like, you don't trust us to choose the curriculum.
Yeah.
You don't trust us to, buy your kids food at lunch, which many of us have done, but you are trusting us to make a decision about shooting a child that may be one of our own, right? If that kid went to school there, that's a teacher that's having to make a decision about an individual they already know and have an opinion about. That, just that example is a good one. But another example is, what happens if a teacher shoots a kid inadvertently, incorrectly, wrongly? What happens then?
Right. And my question I've always posed to people is, and I'll pose it to you too, do you know exactly how you are going to act if someone starts shooting at you?
No.
Are you going to be poised? Are you going to be John Wayne? Are you going to pull out your 6-shooter and pow, 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 make those dead-eye accurate shots?
I've never been shot at, and I don't think, and I tend to think that hey, if you train enough for something, you could steel yourself to it. You can't train yourself to be shot at. You can't train yourself to how you're going to react when you're shot at. And clearly that's illustrated by the fact that armed officers in Uvalde were standing outside and unwilling to go in against a weapon that they thought was more dangerous than what they were currently equipped with. So they were trained. They had a lot more training than any teacher would have had in the United States with a gun in that circumstance. And yet they were still chicken shit to do it and take care of it. So yeah, again, bad faith arguments. It's not a real solution. It's just a solution to circumvent actually having to address what might be a real solution.
Yeah. I mean, the solution is change, but it's too much money in it. And something I put out there, because I saw a lot of NFL football players, NFL players, what can I do? I have money. I can help. And I put on every single one of them I saw was contribute to lobbyists and gun control lobbies. Pro-gun lobbies outspend gun control by 5 times the amount. If you pay Ted Cruz more than the NRA, he'll work for you. He's for sale.
Yeah.
Pay him.
But then
that's the only way things get done.
That's a bigger, even problematic discussion to be had, right? That like the only way you could win is by funding it. Well, there's no money to be made in anti-gun rhetoric. There's tons of money to be made in pro-gun rhetoric. How much money can be made by manufacturing bullets and weapons and ghost guns and and clips and scopes and all the accoutrement that comes with it? And yet, taking all that stuff away, there's no business behind that except saving lives, which isn't a business model because most of us feel like we should be entitled to be able to live out a life without being shot at or without, unless we put ourselves in harm's way, being able to avoid it outside of like a horrible accident. So, yeah, man, it sucks what we're dealing with these days.
Yeah. Well, let's move off that. I think we could talk a lot more, but it's not a super fun topic. Do we have a Nick Hates It?
Well, yeah, but we're going along. I can use it any week because it's not anything new, so we don't have to spend too much time on it. I'll recycle it next week since we're already going.
Sorry, yeah, I had a Roy's for you too, but I will save it also because I basically exhausted it with that, I think.
Oh, no worries. I'll make you a little card too, Roy. Well, just to end up here, obviously we got movies and sports. I know we discussed a little bit through text. The Boys season 3 dropped, and either of y'all make it through episode 1, or at least the first 10 minutes of episode 1.
I have not. By the reactions of you two, I'm assuming, like, the reason, because, like, it's R-rated to say the least, and my wife and I, we watched the first 2 seasons, and we were like, I don't know, we're not sure, and so we haven't watched it. We're not sure we want to commit.
I get the impression your wife is a sweetheart, and for that reason, I might suggest staying away from episode 1, or at least the first 15 minutes of it. Was it 15 minutes within that, Adam? I don't know, man. It might have been 30 minutes in or so.
It was right off the bat. It's about as bad as it gets. Like, I put on the text thing, like, I stopped watching The Walking Dead when Negan got introduced and smashed Homeboy's head. Like, that's too much. I couldn't handle it. It was just, this was almost like
we're talking like blood, guts, gore, not the like.
We are talking blood, guts, gore, but the way that it gets there too is so crass and outrageous that let's
catch you off guard.
I mean, Adam, we're not spoiling anything here because if anybody has watched the show, they're used to this type of thing. They've seen bodies explode from the inside out before, right? But the way this particular one takes place is a superhero who has the ability to make himself extremely small. Miniature, almost.
Like Ant-Man.
And
kinda.
In doing so, he and his partner engage in an act in which he shrinks down to a size that he can fit into a specific area. And while in that area, an accident kind of takes place, and that creates an explosion.
Gotcha.
And it's gory. I mean, they basically give a top to bottom full body scan of the finished product of where you're at in that moment. And it is outrageous. But having said that, I don't know why, for some reason, it's like tolerable with this show to me. But I'm also the type that's kind of weird. I don't want to say into it because that's too into it. But I watched all the Saw series. I watched all the movies of Saw, and whatever you want to call that, gore porn or whatever it is, I have a tolerance for it. I can view that stuff and be like, oh, that's awful, but damn, look at that.
Yeah, it hits me when it gets too realistic. Like, this was very gory, but it was obviously way over the top in realism. But it was shocking. If you're gonna peep Watch it yourself without.
Yeah, I would preview
missus.
it yourself and then decide if your wife is going to be able to handle it.
And I don't know. I don't even know if I'll commit to it, but I am very invested in the storyline. Like that's something that, like I felt like the storyline of the show like is actually like they don't. It's not like this is not apples to apples, but like the Expendables where it's just like let's blow stuff up and let's and that there's really no plot. Like I feel like the plot of the show is pretty strong, or it has been through the first 2 seasons, and that's what's making me be like I want to know what happens. Like I want to know where it goes. And so. I'm being taken 2 different directions here.
Yeah, it's interesting. They dropped 3 episodes.
That's a win, brother. We'll take that.
That's what.
That's a win. Take that.
So, check it out if you can. If you can get past it, it's good. Another thing I watched. I assume y'all watched it because everybody's watched it. Is Top Gun Maverick. Have you seen that yet?
I have not. And I never will. I cannot stand Tom Cruise.
Never will. Never will.
Never will.
Wow.
Now, I've seen Top Gun.
I thought we didn't have a Nick Hates It segment.
I'm an American, but Tom Cruise can get all the way out of my face. I cannot stand that guy. It's just like the way the Maverick carries himself, or whatever his character name is. Like that's how I imagine Tom Cruise all the time. The other night we were looking for a movie to watch, and we scrolled across War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise. And my wife was like, "Oh, let's watch. I like that movie." I was like, "No, I'm not watching it."
Try Maverick.
That guy. I'm not watching it. Now, what people have said, or I've seen that like some people like this more than the original, which is exciting because they remade an old classic or added on to an old classic, but. Yeah, I won't watch it. Have no interest in it. Couldn't care any less about it. And that's about it.
We're gonna have to do a bet payoff where you have to watch it.
I'm middle of the road. I'm middle of the road on it, Adam. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about it because I had never seen the original Top Gun until like about 5 years ago. When we did it as a part of a bit on the radio called Roy's Reviews, where I reviewed all these old movies that were very nostalgic to people that I had never seen and kind of gave them my first take. And that movie was horrible. Top Gun, the first one. God awful. So many bad spots, but like funny, bad to the point that it was funny, where you're watching it and you're like, this volleyball scene on the beach, they're wearing jeans, they look like assholes. They are absolutely stupid. And this all started because the 2 of them had an argument about like flying against each other. So now all of a sudden their competition about who's going to be better or not, it didn't end up in a fight. It didn't end up in an argument. It ended up in a beach volleyball game. Having said all that, this movie, based on what everybody is saying, I think I'm going to have to watch it because the cinematography of what they can do now versus what they could do then is like night and day.
Yeah. It's a quick side note. I was stationed on the air base that Top Gun 1 was shot on. I've been to all those places. I've been to the sand volleyball courts, all that. So the hangars, all that they're all active, hangars and stuff. But
did you go to the sand volleyball court in jeans?
Oh no, we were silkies. They were little like mesh shorts that ride up and really, kind of really
shorts.
Expose you.
Sounds right.
Shorts.
It's a beach.
Yeah,
that's what a normal person would do.
So, the second one is light years ahead of it. It's very 80s nostalgia. It has all the 80s tropes in it, but it's done real well. The flying scenes, action scenes are, like you said, they're amazing. They're all supposedly practical effects. They're not CGI. They're nothing. They're out in airplanes flying around, getting all these shots. It's the story's fairly solid. Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise. I like the way this character is. Spoilers, maybe, kind of. He's a lot more mature. He's kind of at the end of his time,
Yeah, he's old. We all have to agree that Tom Cruise is 30 years older than he was when he did the original Top Gun. So yeah, he's an old bastard.
he's an old man and he's out of touch. It's all that, but it's really good story. It ties into the all the stuff from the past movies, but it doesn't really rely on it too much. You don't have to have seen the first one to enjoy this one. So I thought it was great. The practical effects alone were great. There is a shirtless beach scene. It's
I
very
heard they
short.
did like a soccer or football scene. They like had to go back to the well of being on the beach, and again, that's like kind of poking fun at yourself a little bit. So I respect it. I get it.
But they put it in more context.
So the camera thing, real quick, all the pilots, the actors flying those planes, they had to learn how to maneuver those cameras while they were flying as well, and they're the ones operating those cameras during those shots because they had no other way to like get those shots. So that is why this one in particular seems like it will be way better because I mean everybody is describing it as like adrenaline filled, and the original Top Gun, watching it now, maybe in the 80s it was adrenaline filled, but it was not that 5 years ago. It was like Snoresville. This is, I hear, quite a bit different.
Yeah, worth a watch, definitely. So that's our movie reviews.
Bought on Paramount or something.
It'll be on Paramount probably fairly soon. Heck, the Doctor Strange 2 is about to be on Disney Plus already.
I need it.
15 days. Yeah.
I need it.
It's good. It's good. So let's end on a little sports. I got a lot of stuff here, but let's talk about first kind of a sad news in the world. Locally with Cowboys is Marion Barber was found passed away in his apartment. 3-4 days ago. 38 years old, fantastic running back. I remember, man, I loved watching him play, but sad time around here for those who really enjoyed what he did on the field with the Cowboys.
And I don't know if you guys saw this, but ABC News, did you see their just like horribly out of touch tweet that they put out?
I was about to say the thing I remember about him is that he ran for a lot of touchdowns, but never had a 1,000-yard season. I don't know why that came to mind.
Good
God.
Does Adam Schefter write for ABC now? That's
They kept it up too, man. They kept it up.
Yeah.
They did. It's but yeah, my condolences to his family, and it's tough because he's same age I am. Which, I guess it's all getting closer, but yeah, we have not much Cowboys news outside of that, except at June 1st they're sitting at over $20 million in cap space. Roy, you do a Cowboys podcast. Are they going to spend that, or how's that going to impact next year's roster?
I spent it. I spent that stuff. As soon as that money was available, I did a podcast about how I could spend it, right? Give me a little Anthony Barr, give me a little Sheldon Richardson, maybe give me a couple of offensive linemen, maybe a center and a guard, and I'd feel great. But will the Cowboys spend that? I don't see them spending a whole lot. If they get somebody else from here on out, it'll be someone for like less than $4 million. And they might roll over that money to next year, right? Because they're going to free up some money when they cut Zeke. So maybe that's something that they're looking to kind of use for the 3 big paydays that they have coming up in the next 2 seasons, right? That's CD, Trayvon, and Micah, who are all guys that you're going to want to pay. So
and Dak.
Well, no, I mean, shoot, Dak's that's one that this contract for Dak, like that's another conversation, but this contract for Dak will be like win a Super Bowl, or you might not be the Cowboys quarterback beyond it. And I'm not saying that because I don't think he's good enough. I'm just saying that because they start to get so expensive that like going to the well is a popular move. Only 3 teams in the NFL right now have a quarterback who's been their quarterback for at least 5 seasons. Think about that. Can you name them?
Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, you got the easy one. Jackson. The second. Who's the third?
Is it Kirk
Lamar.
Cousins?
Nope.
Is it Lamar? No.
No.
Mahomes.
Nope.
I guess he hasn't started that whole time.
Same division as
Uh,
Mahomes.
Carr?
Derek freaking
Wow.
Carr. But think about that. 32 teams, 3 teams who've had a quarterback that have been there for more than 5 years. What does that tell you? That like the turnover is quick, and quite honestly, the models of the last 2 winners have shown that you build the team first, and then you trade or you get the quarterback as the final piece to set it up. The Bucks and the Rams, you could argue, both had the pieces in place of a team and then added the quarterback as the final one. Now with the Bucks, I think you could say added the quarterback and then some pieces in free agency, but like they did it in that one fell swoop and didn't have to like tie a bunch of future money up to do it.
Even the Chiefs to a degree. I mean, they had pieces before Mahomes got there.
The reason that statement by me like that is a little bit loaded because I expect Josh Allen will be in Buffalo for more than 5 years when, once he's played out this new contract that he got. So will Lamar, so will Kyler, so will Mahomes, right? These guys that you think are great, but you start rattling off those names, Burrow, you start rattling off those names, and then you go, well, these are all influxes into the league that have come in since Dak has been here. Do any of them start to surpass him? Have some of them surpassed him? And if they have, then it's a conversation that you'll come back to again. Like that's what I'm saying. I think Dak is very, very good. I think he's very, very good. I think he can win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. But if you don't do it within this contract, I don't know if he will be a Cowboys quarterback until his days are done.
Yeah, and I'm almost a fan of that. Is if it's not working, let's do something different.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's why I say they might not want to tie the money up this year. Let's go all in for Mike McCarthy when maybe he's not even the coach next year, right? Keep a little bit of powder dry. I hate that expression because it's never worked out, but the Cowboys may opt to do that because they have a cap guy that's kind of pulling those strings in Stephen Jones, and they might think they got a better chance next year to land some big fish.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that. But quick update on the finals. Halftime, Golden State is up by 2 in game 2 at halftime. What do we think?
I want to hear Nick's take on this. I defer to Nick on basketball opinions because think he watches it a little bit better than I do.
I haven't been really a Celtics believer, and they keep proving me wrong. I would be shocked if Golden State goes down 0-2 at home. So I think they'll win tonight. Right now I'm picking the Celtics to win the series. There might be a little bit of bias in there. I can't stand the Warriors. But Tatum had a bad game 1. Celtics still won it. They play well at home. They've got a good defense. I think they'll take the series, but I'd be like I said, shocked if Golden State doesn't win tonight.
Yeah, so they are up by 2. Currently at halftime.
Vegas at least thinks that's kind of smart. After the Celtics won game 1, the Celtics became minus 190 to win the series, which means they became heavily favored to win the series, right? You got to bet basically 190 to win 100. The Warriors became plus 160. So you bet 100, you win 160 in that scenario. So, I mean, shoot, if you're a Warriors believer, after game 1 was the time to put that money down. But I think also that game sent shockwaves through everybody because, like you said, Nick, I'm not a believer in the Celtics either. And yet now I'm thinking, like, damn, the way they're playing this team and with that defense to kind of stifle what the Warriors like to do, man, I think I kind of agree with you. I think they probably are going to win this series.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 2-point lead. It looks close. I didn't think the Celtics had it in them, but it looks pretty good. So yeah, I'm taking Celtics in 7. I feel pretty strongly about that. And I have some Mavs talks, but we could push that off. We are going pretty long. I do want to talk some Mavs off-season needs and what, especially get Nick's opinion on where he thinks they might be going with that. But that's all I got for today. Do y'all have anything else, Nick?
No, I'm good.
Roy, you have anything?
Agnetology. Look it up. Again, Agnetology. It is what is used to manipulate so many in these United States. And it is, again, the science of building ignorance and distributing it to the masses. Highly recommend you look into it.
Is sophistry the act that you study in agnetology?
Sophistry?
Is the
I've not heard that term.
It's the purposeful misleading of, like, purposely giving misleading information for the point of misleading, like
yeah. So I just looked up this term, right? That's interesting, because I didn't see that being cited as a part of it, but it sounds very similar. This, though, sophistry was like around in 5th and 4th century BC, whereas agnetology was, I believe, something that was coined by a couple of like linguists in the 90s. So definitely, probably honestly just the study of sophistry, if you might call it that. But yeah, very, very similar. Like a sophist is basically a teacher or an individual that's spreading falsehoods and fallacies for the sake of, the gain of that misinformation. Yeah, I would think that's very similar.
Well, Nick's nodding off over here, so appreciate everybody that's listening.
Thinking about all these things on my phone, big words that I don't know what they mean.
Well, yeah, man, and that was one of the critiques I got told a lot. They're like, man, you try to use too many big words, and I admit I'm not like, I like big words. I don't often know the meanings of them, but I like to add to my vocabulary. So I don't mean to be over the heads of anybody on that front, because I only just learned that word recently, agnetology.
Yeah, sophistry with me. A couple months ago, I heard it, and I was like, oh, that's a cool word. Yeah. I'm going to use it a lot more now.
There we go.
This word.
Well, we appreciate everybody listening. Check out the replay. Check out all our sponsors. And until we see you again, stay
What's up, Adam's
average.
dad? Don't vote for Trump.